look at global economic output, and I have to congratulate Rwanda for clocking 7% growth year over year last year when it comes to GDP growth. What's really driving the growth momentum? We have $100 trillion of economic output. $32 trillion is attributed to labor force output. Out of that $32 trillion, already $1 trillion is being augmented, accelerated, and democratized by AI/generative AI.
Wow.
Over the next 5 to 7 years, it's projected to go to 14%. That's 43%
Wow.
of the labor force productivity potentially could be accelerated, augmented, or democratized and disrupted. And this is why we are not at a tipping point, but a turning point in humanity, where we're moving from what I would coin, and I think the World Economic Forum soon is going to release it, shifting from the industrial revolutions to the intelligence revolution. How we're pivoting from digital to AI and maybe later on quantum.
It's interesting you make a distinction between sort of the information revolution, which we talked before, to the intelligence revolution.
Absolutely.
I like that. I like
and
that.
Right now, it's all about achieving, first of all, co-intelligence.
Yeah.
How humans and machine can coexist within this artificial intelligence era, or AGI era. And this is why the kingdom is very excited with Rwanda, with Sony, with Ericsson, with Estonia, with you, how we could create this complex coalition of adaptive forces to make sure that we push adoption. You spoke about the printing press.
Yes.
It was Germany that invented it, but the adoption took place among the British and the Dutch.
Yes.
And hence they enjoyed and they reaped the fruits. So we're pushing today an agenda that is inclusive, that is innovative, and indisputably multi-stakeholder to make sure that we lead and leapfrog in this era. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of introducing you to Dr. Ali Al-Hassan.
Yes.
Dr. Ali Al-Hassan is a clear example of how this general purpose technology can really make the difference for the most pressing challenges.
Yeah.
I spoke about it last Davos and I shared with you the video.
Yeah.
He used generative AI to look at the correlation of protein and enzymes to reduce the time for drug formulation for sickle cell disease from 10 years to 2 years. There's some great news. He's pivoting already to 3 other genetic diseases around vision, around respiratory systems, and cholesterol level systems. These are remarkable examples of how this general purpose technology is making the difference for a disease that impacts 20 million folks, 75% in Africa, in the Middle East, and this is making the difference. We have learned a lot from this. The OECD principles of trustworthy AI, His Royal Highness led, under his leadership, the consensus among the G20 in 2020. This is the toughest year, and this was 3 years ago, way ahead of the generative AI era. And those OECD principles of trustworthy AI have paved the way for the AI Act, for all of the different pieces of legislation that we're hearing today. And those principles today have not stifled innovation in the kingdom.
Yeah.
So we've pushed on direct formulation, and we have learned that on a use case basis, you have to do a risk-based assessment, out of which you still have to conform to clinical trials regulation. So right now, 15 patients in the National Guard Hospital are undergoing this treatment, and they have to go through stage 1 examination for toxicity and for side effects.
Yes.
Then have to move to efficacy, then to full approval. If I just give you one last example, and then I can wrap up.
Yeah.
If we shift to the other super cycle you spoke about, which is the climate change, we have Aramco that launched last LEAP, one of the largest tech events right now in the world. And I do invite you, Thomas, to come and join us for LEAP next year.
Yes.
They have announced the Meta Brain, their 250 billion parameters model, soon to be 1 trillion parameters, really helping them achieve the lowest uplift cost and carbon intensity for their downstream and upstream activities. And there's one particular use case that they're very excited about when it comes to drilling and how they can reduce the numbers of runs as they correlate the porosity and the pressure points for drilling. And the savings that they have realized already is $1 billion per annum for the next 10 years. And that's one use case. So
and just quickly, you also talked about how they've turned the drill from this direction also to this direction.
Indeed.
And taking stuff out of the atmosphere at scale, not just out of the
This
subsurface.
is when it comes to metal organic frameworks for carbon sequestration and storage, how the circular carbon economy can work.
Yeah.
So this is live examples
Yeah.
of how we need to foster today in a multi-stakeholder fashion an inclusive and innovative AI that pushes the needle on this general purpose technology diffusion and adoption.
And of course, what was different about when the printing press happened, yes, it diffused quickly to neighboring states in Europe, but it took a while to get to Saudi Arabia and to Rwanda. Now this happens at the exact same time.
Average is no longer the case today.
Exactly, exactly. Mr. Eriksson, what's exciting you at Eriksson?
Well, I'm thinking about this from my role as industry leader. And what's so fascinating just now is that we all realize that industries will change fundamentally. But we don't know exactly how and how fast. So hence, it's so important to engage, not only inside individual business enterprises, but also with other companies in the supply chain and in the network. The ultimate result will most likely be that more and more business enterprises will be fully automated, helped by software, AI, and robotics. But that will also not only impact individual companies, but entire value chains. And to understand how to set that up and what it takes to unlock the full potential of the technology is a huge and very important leadership task as we speak, which really excites me.
You know, it reminds me when electrification happened, was introduced, there's actually no initial productivity boost. It actually took about 30 years. And there was a lot of study. Why is that? We went, from steam to electricity. And the reason was the full impact of productivity improvement from electrification actually required you to redesign everything, from how the factory was organized, the workforce was, and only then when you redesigned all the systems around it, then you got this explosion of productivity. Is the same, are you sort of suggesting around AI?
Sure. And in a number of discussions like this, it's easy to be excited about the potential of the technology. But we tend to forget about what it takes to realize the full potential and unlock bottlenecks.
Yes.
So that's probably your next question.
Yeah, that's what we'll get to that. Minister Risalov, from Estonia, give us your perspective.
Yes, I would say that I'm super excited, and that's true. That's not just an exaggeration. And what is our plan? We plan to be super users.
Super users.
Super users of AI. And we have a plan in place. What we're going to build is, we call it post-digital personalized state. And we are convinced that we can do it because we just have not, talked our talk, but walked our walk last 25 years. We still have the most advanced digital society, and we see a huge amount of benefits becoming available from the latest technological developments.
Pardon my ignorance, but how many people live in Estonia?
1.5.
1.5 million
Yes.
people?
Yes.
You're making that up. I don't believe that.
But you asked me to bring examples,
Yes,
so
please,
that so to describe what I mean. We have been working on AI issues already for some years, so it is not a surprise for us. And we have to remember always that before generative AI, there was machine learning, deep learning, and then these all are usable technologies. So just to bring you one example is that we have from 2020 up and running national clinical decision support tool, which means that it's a support tool for doctors to make better diagnosis. And what enables us is that we have our genome database established already in the Tartu University in the 2000s, beginning of 2000s. So it is a quarter of population having a full genome sample there. So we have digitalized our e-health systems already, 15 years ago.
Is this for everyone in Estonia?
Absolutely everyone. We have a universal coverage. So there is, in this e-health story, you have everything. You have your doctor visits, you have the diagnosis, you have your analysis, you have all the scans. And then from the third side, we have the so-called, what in the industry we call the life log. As it's, all the services in Estonia digital, there is a lot of data. When you marry, when you divorce, when you get driving licenses, and so on and so on. And it is a different data sets, but what's the beauty of Estonian system for the very beginning, that we have this underlying protocol called X-Road and data standards. So we can securely change the data between different data sets. And if you put all this together and then now add the capacities of generative AI, you can only imagine what you can see in a field of personalized medicine. It has been
you have all this trusted data, you're saying.
Yes, yeah. Yes, and it has been a buzzword for some years already, but there is not really true results or results in a very specific group. But we are convinced, for example, cancer diagnosis, it is going to be a completely different picture after 2, 3, 4 years. So this is what makes me really excited. And we have the possibility to create this world, and we can only we are going to make mistakes also.
Sure.
And this is why it's important to have this kind of forum and talk with the countries and organizations who are like-minded, sort of to learn from each other's experiences, and then our purpose. I'm not thinking so much about the trillions in the global GDP. We are thinking how to make it useful for our people.
Yeah.
And again, I'm super excited. I see so many possibilities arising if we don't blow it up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. I still don't believe there are 1.5 million people only in Estonia, but we'll move on. Minister from Rwanda, what do you see that's exciting you?
Thank you, Tom. I think just like most of the other panelists, I share the optimism when it comes to AI, particularly for Africa or a country like Rwanda, for two reasons. One, the ability to be an equalizer, and especially for developing countries, the ability to leapfrog. One of the benefits that we have is that we don't have legacy infrastructure and systems. And so if we're able to be very laser focused on how we deploy AI solutions for the societal problems we're trying to solve for, then one, we gain the benefits, but also we're able to leapfrog when it comes to technological development. The second thing that excites me about AI is the up-leveling effect that it has on the workforce, particularly for least skilled professionals. You have the ability, and they stand to benefit the most when it comes to generative AI. What is challenging, though, is then to think about what's the wage gap that will persist.
Yes.
But at least what we continue to see is for the least skilled professionals, you have the opportunity to leverage AI to also increase productivity in their different trades. And I'll give you a couple of examples.
Please.
In Rwanda, we have, similar to what the minister from Estonia was sharing, we have universal healthcare insurance coverage for our citizens. And what we've also done, the structures that we've set up for delivering healthcare, primary healthcare services, have required that we deploy at least 100,000 community health workers, and these will go door to door in the communities providing primary healthcare services. Now, what we've done is to build a Kinyarwanda, this is our local language, large language model, that allows these community health workers that when they're employed, they're not necessarily medical professionals, but they're able to draw information from a wide pool of data and be able to respond. Of course, it's very much linked with the medical record system that has already been put in place, but it still allows for quality healthcare services to be provided to the citizens. Now, when it comes to the enabling or equalizing effect, we are a population of close to 14 million people. And 2 years ago, we were looking at the number of radiologists that we had. There were not more than 15. So in essence, you're looking at, for one radiologist, 1 million population. So here is a great opportunity on how we leverage AI or AI models to really ensure that we can help these radiologists to be able to efficiently and productively deliver their work. We've done an economic impact assessment, and what we're seeing is that AI can contribute about 6% to our GDP growth. And we've looked at particular use cases in agriculture, where we're looking at early warning systems to support farmers. 70% of our population is within the agriculture sector, so if we're able to build systems that allow them to have timely access to information and inputs.
Can people turn off their phones or leave the room? Excuse me.
No problem at all. So essentially, looking at all these different use cases in agriculture, in delivering healthcare, in improving public service delivery, there's really immense opportunities on what AI can do to really help a country like Rwanda to leapfrog its development stages, but also at the same time to really enhance the workforce.
So I was telling the minister yesterday, back in 2011, I wrote a book about America. It was called That Used to Be Us. It was about how we were falling behind. And I had a chapter in the book that was called Average is Over. And at the time, the theme was that if you just have average skills now, that will not return an average lifestyle of income, of housing, or whatever.
Yes.
And what excites me about AI right now, and for a country like Rwanda, is average is over in a different way.
Exactly.
So those healthcare workers in the past, they never even had access to average. Now they'll have access to world class in their own dialect.
Exactly.
And I think as that scales, it's going to be super, super exciting. From Sony.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is a really exciting time, and I've been in the AI field for over 40 years, 4 decades. And AI, robotics, and large-scale computing, and people equate this as like industrial revolutions. And then if you look at the industrial revolutions, like they took two phases. One is steam engine, the other one is internal combustion engine. Right now, what I'll say is a kind of excitement, particularly on the Gen AI, in the steam engine days. The best yet to come. I mean, we're going to see internal combustion engine quality of AI in coming years or the decade. And right now, Gen AI is predominantly used for productivity tool, particularly for large-scale language models and some partly like a division model style. And I think it will have like a really impact on the GDP and the productivity and in new industries. That's for sure. What I think is the next phase of the AI development are going to be on the creativity tool, particularly for the AI for scientific discovery. I think this is going to be a huge change because our society is driven by the scientific discovery and then technology. Of course, a part of that. Yeah. And then the way we do science, we're going to fundamentally change in the coming years or decades. Right now, when you actually ask, ChatGPT or whatever, large language model, you got answer. It's a decent answer. At the same time, what you need in the scientific discovery is, for the bulk of knowledge, we need to get numbers of hypotheses, right? If for this question, this could be the solution, this could be another one, this could be another one. Humans actually do, in science, do that. I'm scientist myself. It's actually we're not good at that. Yeah, we can't really come up with all possible hypotheses. Yeah. We cannot do that. We come up with something we think is most likely. Yeah. But something nature is more tricky. Yeah. So we might have something that we haven't thought about this. This could be the real thing. So we probably need to move into the new kind of AI based on what we have, to be able to generate and also, a lot of hypotheses and prioritize it, and then move into the experiment for the verification. That means we need robotics. So I think it's going to be the root of the new kind of AI combines with robotics, and that will change the way we do science on the biology, pharmacology, and material science, engineering design, and so a lot of things. I think that's going to be huge. And then I think that'll be, the fundamental. Also, a similar principle applied to the more general creativity for artists and musicians, because therefore, creators to explore the new expressions, new music, new art form, new movie, right? So basically, it's exploring the hypothesis, not really getting the answer from the digital world, the web, what we know. It's exploring the new opportunities, new expressions. I think both are common, but I think that's something excites me, and I think that a fundamental change that we would do it.
You're really describing the company that the minister actually introduced me to yesterday. It's exactly that kind of phenomenon at work. Minister, what concerns you, though, now, going forward, whether it's about job loss or security, authentication? What are the concerns and how are you addressing them?
So let's talk a little bit about realism, but I'll still infuse a little bit of optimism, because I believe this general purpose technology, and we spoke about this yesterday, Thomas, is actually net positive on the long run. And if you look at the steam engine, the internet, they have been net positive on the long run. But the current model is overhyped because of few limitations. The good news is that There are solutions that are being worked at, but these problematic and systematic issues are driving misinformation, bias, hallucination. And let me explain to you why this is coming from. First of all, let's appreciate the technological development. The current models are operating at around 4 trillion parameters. Just to explain this in this complex notion in a very simplified way, we all have to be, by the way, if you want to appreciate artificial intelligence, you have to be a pseudo neuroscientist because we're trying to mimic neural networks within the brain.
Yes.
4 trillion connections are the weights for how you discover answers. The human brain right now, approximately, because we still did not figure out everything about the human brain, is at 100 trillion parameters, 100 trillion connections. So that's 4%.
Right.
But a few years ago, that's 175 billion parameters to 4 trillion.
Yeah.
So that's 22x in just less than 3 years.
Yeah.
At this rate, the most optimistic believe we can achieve general intelligence by 5 years. The pessimists believe by 14 years. But there is a catch. The current model is overhyped because there are 3 fundamental challenges. The first one, from a great book, I'll borrow from it, Thinking Fast and Slow. We love that book. Yes. Humans have thinking 2 systems, thinking fast and slow. It's like teaching your kid math. If you want to teach him math, you'll ask him, what's 1 plus 1? He will immediately answer 2, even without thinking.
Yeah.
But if you ask him, what's 22 times 17? He will take some rationale and some time, system 2 thinking. The current model has 4 trillion connections, wealth of data, but only has system 1 thinking. It's only probabilistic, not deterministic. So that's an immature brain with close to general intelligence and superintelligence. That can be problem number 1. Problem number 2, humans, neuroscientists, they call perception and imagination constrained hallucination. So actually, for humans, when you go into sleep, the first phase of sleep, you have something called rapid eye movement sleep, which is vivid dreaming. It's good for learning, for memory. So actually, constrained hallucinations is good. The current models for AI only have unconstrained hallucination, what neuroscientists call mental disorders. So you have an immature brain with close to general intelligence, with system 1 thinking, probabilistic, and with a mental disorder. Third problem.
So well described.
Third problem is that if we want to oversimplify the human brain, it's really a complex layers of limbic and cognition and survival systems and emotional systems. But really, if we want to oversimplify it, it's 3 systems. The current AI model has only 1, reasoning, inference. It lacks empathy. So again, an immature brain with only system 1 thinking, with a mental disorder, right, called unconstrained hallucinations and biases, and lacks empathy. The good news, there are solutions undergoing. But the call to action here is that we have some headroom to do some skilling and reskilling when it comes to transitioning to general intelligence. And let me reiterate this. This is something I shared in the AI Summit during 2020. And I think I wasn't heard well, so let me make sure I repeat in this room for the folks in this room and overstream. Talents and leaders in this room and overstream, if you do not master AI within the next 5 to 7 years, you will become irrelevant to a talented leader that uses AI. In other words, you could be potentially, but surely, displaced or disrupted.